All right. We are here. We're live. Hello and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Bezner and joining me is Jenner,
Present.
Hsien,
Hey,
and Wagner.
As always.
This week, we watched the highly praised pseudo-documentary Ghost Story Lake Mungo, written and directed by Joel Anderson, who then vanished, making this his one and only feature-length released film. Lake Mungo tells the story of Alice, a 16-year-old Australian girl who mysteriously drowns at a lake while with her family. Shortly after, bizarre occurrences begin happening around the house. Bad feelings, shadows around the corner. Has Alice come home? Is she trying to tell her family something? You'll find out because we spoil everything. Critically acclaimed, Lake Mungo is very well known to horror and independent film fans, but it never had the breakout success I thought it deserved. So we all watched it. I believe Jenner and I are the only ones to have seen it. So I'd love to hear thoughts from Hsien and Wagner first.
I'll let Shane go first.
Yeah.
me?
Yep.
Okay. So I hadn't seen it. I hadn't heard of it. I thought it was going to be a little campier because I thought the title was kind of funny. So I thought it was going to be a little sillier.
I mean, that's an Australia thing.
Yeah. I was into it at first. I kind of got. I thought the acting was really good. I liked the format. I liked the way it was put together. I kind of got bored, especially since halfway through, all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, this was all fake. Like the kids, like I did it. I thought maybe that was then padding it out for feature length to have, halfway through the movie have everything be like a red herring sort of. Yeah, I guess like found footage stuff isn't really my thing. Looking for ghostly images and pictures and stuff like that is not really my cup of tea. It did feel like after a point it was like, oh, we didn't notice this picture in the corner. Oh, we didn't notice this person. Oh, this person's involved. Let's go find them. Oh, they took this picture. Oh, there's this other person in the corner. They just keep on showing up in frames and stuff. So I guess I got a little. I wasn't super engaged with it after a certain point. Thought it was well done, but yeah, just maybe not really my thing.
I had very much a different feel towards this one. I really, really liked this. And this one sort of epitomizes what I come to horror for, not necessarily the sort of fallout of it at the end, but I'd say technically, I mean, I'm not the technical person here, but the technical aspects to my eyes looked very, very good. And I was actually genuinely impressed by the acting in it as well, because it was all understated. We're going to talk about another movie in which I feel the acting was not as naturalistic, shall we say. But this really was a film that stood on its story, I feel like. And I've said before, I'm the last person, not literally, but I'm one of the last people who comes to horror for the story they're going to tell me. And this one actually had like twists and turns where I wasn't really certain where it was going to go. They weren't hugely monumental twists and turns. It wasn't like, I don't know, suddenly revealing a Satanist underground behind the house or something like that. But that was all like genuine twists on sort of realistic environments. We discover, and we said we're spoiling this, right?
Yeah.
So we discover initially that some of the apparent evidence for a haunting happening in the home, that Alice is haunting her childhood home, we discover that was all faked by her brother, which to me felt like maybe he was a little disturbed, and that was why he was doing that. That it's a pretty cruel thing to do. I'm not sure how you could convince yourself you're just playing a joke on your family about your dead sister, or that you could be considered to be helping them in any way.
It's so hard for me not to talk. Go.
Okay, but it's pretty. That's one of the major twists, and then we continue along, and it turns out there is something that was captured on the film, And that leads into a whole series of revelations. And that leads us to another source, which leads us to more revelations, which leads us to kind of the conclusion. And it is, for a long time, I had an idea of telling horror stories, but for real, which about supernatural monsters, but for real, where a ghost story is not about a supernatural entity coming back to affect the world of the living. A ghost story is about the absence of a person taken too soon and the impact they have on the lives around them. And this very much was that, with just a little bit of supernaturalness at the end. Because at the very end, we discovered that this is not a ghost story, this is a doppelganger story. Which, that was a big surprise to me, and did have a, maybe just because I was watching it late at night with all the lights off, but I thought that when we finally run into the one image of a supernatural entity in the film, that genuinely caught me off guard and was surprising.
And you guys watched the end credits, right?
Oh yeah.
Where it zoomed in on the photos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
I did.
Okay.
So yeah, it
And
sort of has it in there.
and the after credits.
Yes.
There's
Not
more after the credits.
I kept watching it. I don't remember.
It's just
what
one shot. It's just of the doppelganger, except it's real film footage, and there's just lightning
okay.
striking to make her silhouette. Anyway,
It's a haunting image.
it is. It's very
yeah.
well done. I'm sure what actually happened was they shot it at some point and were like, this just doesn't work in the movie, and then threw it in at the end because it looks really nice. Anyway.
Yeah, I think once the credits scroll started, I think maybe even I got like the watch next thing button or something like that. Because a lot of times if there's something after, they won't do that in streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tubi came very close to screwing this up radically just by bringing in the skip the credits thing when, the ultimate hat tip of the movie is the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw that. I always make a point of watching all the way to the end of the credits, so I'm surprised if I missed it, but maybe I need to go back and double check.
In every fake ghost picture was her ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That I did see. That
Okay.
I did see.
Yeah.
Except it's one of those things where you zoom in so far that you're looking at the grain, and the grain could be anything, which of course is the essence of, the sort of illusions that you're looking at.
Except for the
when
one
you're
on the
looking for
bench.
I mean, I thought it was her. For some reason, when I saw those pictures at the end, I thought it was her mom because they were so grainy. And I was like, what does this mean? And then I went and I think I read the Wikipedia. I'm like, oh, that's just her.
Oh, I didn't read the Wikipedia. But I really liked it. I was very impressed by it.
Jenner, what did you feel on a second viewing?
Well, like I say, I'm still very impressed by the reality of the film. It is a film that feels like it could absolutely be completely real, aside from a couple of the little tricks that it pulls right at the end, which definitely kind of laps over into cinematic territory, but nonetheless are one of the more elegant, as I say, hat tips that I've ever seen in any ghost film. The story still does not feel... Well, it doesn't feel like a story, but arguably that kind of adds to the reality of it all. It's more sort of a chronicle of what happened. And as a lot of people observed, it's more a film about processing grief than it is a narrative per se. It's just kind of, this is what happened to this family. This is what happened to this family after that. I won't say that I said before that it had maybe left me a little bit cold on first viewing. I think especially even now having forgotten so much of it from my first viewing, I think I liked it better this time, not least because I think I was watching it on a much larger screen, so it gave a lot more of an opportunity to sort of process the buried detail in the film. I had completely forgotten about the zoom in on the other aspects of the photographs at the end, which was very agreeable. And as I say, that final shot, even if it doesn't resemble anything that belongs in a documentary, is a thoroughly haunting image in its own right. I like it quite well. I think its cult reputation may be a little overstated. Yeah, that's about it, really.
I mean, I think as a portrait of like the feeling real, I think it does a really good job. There's actually my favorite detail is that very early on, the dad talks about how his car couldn't start and he had to drive backwards back into town. That's a completely unnecessary detail. There's no reason for it, other than the fact that it feels like it's something that happened. They did put that in there. It just feels like this is something that happened to this person.
That also
And
feels
she talks
very
about it.
Australian to me.
Yeah, yeah. That is not something that happens if you don't have a manual transmission.
Yeah, I think there are some cultural things going on as well, like Lake Mungo being a very sacred place.
And a completely dry lake bed.
Yeah, it's where they found the first humans that ever lived on Australia. Their remains. Archaeologically, it is an incredibly important place, and I think they picked that for a reason. I want to start discussing a couple of things, but first I want to ask all of you: did you ever theorize or just accepted how she died?
Go ahead.
I spent this second viewing looking for something that could lend itself to a conclusion, or at least even a solid hypothesis or theory as to what happened one way or another. I did get the feeling that there was something a little off about the brother, but again, there doesn't feel like there's really anything solidly in the movie to support it directly. The movie feels like there is still a lot of the story that we're not getting details for, which, it being a movie about the absence of something as opposed to about, a thing in itself, kind of makes sense in that sense of realism, but at the same time, it still has a slight feeling of narrative incompleteness. Which is to say, there are ways that we can speculate, but of course, the speculation as to how she died is moot.
Well,
I disagree, but I'll say why later.
Yeah, I theorized that it was a case of suicide, that they kept pointing to her being depressed or something looming over her, whether it be supernatural or just emotional or something like that. And the way she sort of prepared for the trip is similar how people would prepare for a suicide attempt if they were serious and were planning on leaving things behind. She took all of her most favorite possessions and buried them, and then went off to a lake and died. That is a pretty obvious approach for a case for suicide. In the final conclusion, that's more up in the air, whether it was some supernatural aspect of something coming for her, whether it's a doppelganger influence, the ill omen that a doppelganger traditionally brings, or if it was, I don't know, a water witch coming to get her, to be more blunt and horror movie about it. I think you're right. I think they intend it to be more unknown, but no, I liked it either way.
And Shade, I guess you didn't at all, probably.
No, I don't think I was really thinking about it. I mean, if I, especially since this is the first viewing and you're kind of just letting yourself be led along by what they're showing you. I didn't really double back and think about what might have happened to her.
This is a third watch for me, and I've discussed this film just like a lot with other film people because I talked about it with Jenner when I first saw it. I remember that, but it was.
I have to allow I don't remember that conversation, but it was a while ago.
I pitched a theory that I'm sticking with, and you touched upon, which is the brother killed her.
Oh. I did briefly consider that, though I'm not sure if the film intends us to come to that conclusion or not.
Okay, when she's first discovered missing, he's the one who brings it to everybody's attention. He's like, "Hey, where's Alice?" And he's covered in bruises. Why is he covered in bruises? It's never explained.
Well,
pretty solidly hand waved, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I have more.
It isn't. It isn't. It isn't. The bruising. I mean, the bruising is common with sort of haunting reports. People having mysterious bruises and stuff like that. But then it turns out it's not a haunting. But then it turns out it is a haunting. So you can go back and forth.
No,
on
he
that.
had the bruises when she died.
Okay.
When he
I didn't remember that.
when he came back and asked everybody, "Have you seen Alice?" That's when they noticed the bruises. They make mention of it.
Okay.
And
Okay, I
then
didn't.
later, the father has tells this story about how he went into her room and sat down after her death, and she just walked in and sat down and started writing something in her diary. Then she kind of froze up and she looked terrified, and then she turned around and said, "Get out, get out."
You think she was yelling at her brother?
Well, later on, that exact scene is
Mhm.
shown on video from the perspective of her brother's video camera.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
it's also it seems to be fans of the movie pretty much accept this as this is what they were trying to say. And what essentially the movie ended up being about was she and her mother have secrets. Her grandmother always said she had she doesn't say special powers, but insinuates a supernatural thing through the bloodline of being able to kind of see the future and connect with each other on that level. And so when she's dreaming in the past, Alice is dreaming in the past, and her mother is walking through her house in her mind, and then her mother is. That's the connection between the two of them. So, what Alice was trying to do as a ghost for the entire movie was point everybody in the direction of her brother and say, "No, look, you get him."
Mhm.
And every single thing that they do is just like ignoring the blatantly obvious. Like a person sitting on a bench in a picture. All you see is the one that's right out there in the open. You don't see the one on the bench. Nobody catches it until they show it in the end credits. They
Mhm.
see what they want to see.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's I furthermore, since he skulks in her room a lot, because several times she says, "Get out of my room" throughout the course of the movie, I'm pretty sure he happened upon the videotape. And I
Okay.
also think it's possible that he had more of a romantic intentions toward his sister. They say they're very close, and every picture they show, she's kind of like that. They said he was very close to her, but
Mhm.
every picture is her kind of looking a little uncomfortable when she's with him or
Okay.
him leaning in too closely. I think all of this is subtle subtext to show us what actually happened. And it's only there if you want to look for it, because the story they told is about grief and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Grief, that missing piece, all of that. But I think it's fun
Yeah.
that they included that. I feel like this Joel Anderson guy would have made amazing movies, because I feel like if you're working on that kind of level where you're basically like, let's take your typical like run of the mill ghost story, a Hollywood ghost story, but let's tell it entirely from the perspective of the parents who didn't figure anything out because they were so detached from their daughter.
Mhm.
And that's fucked up,
Yeah.
because the ending to me is ultimately one of the most tragic endings in any horror film, in that she is locked to that house for eternity now, with
Mhm.
her entire family being like, no, she doesn't live here anymore. And no, she fucking is there and has been trying to tell you this entire time. But the brother,
Yeah.
and the reason I think the brother made up the pictures wasn't to like make his mom feel better. It's because I think he was a narcissistic sociopath, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure he just wanted the attention. And he was excited for them to be like so sad over Alice when he did it.
Mm.
But so
I could see that.
take
Or at the same time, a continuation of the ongoing sort of obsessiveness that he may have had about her in the first place. That was the bit that I definitely got. They're hand waving something here.
yeah. Well, when he's making these, I guess photoshops is probably what he did. Did he not notice the actual pictures of her in the corner? Also, was she there in the view that you saw earlier in the film? Is she in the corner, or did
This
they...
is the second time that I've meant to go back and check, and the second time that I've not had a chance to afterwards.
I brought up Tubi to actually, because I knew this would happen and I didn't have time to check.
Oh.
I'm going to go through this film and find that shot and see if she's there from the beginning. Because if she is, I think that lends credence to my theory.
So, are any of you familiar with a film called what is it? The Facts in the Case of Mr. Hollow?
No.
That was Rodrigo Godino, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Amazing little short film.
It is and it isn't, because I mean this is going to be relevant for the second film we talk about too. In that, when The Facts in the Case of Mr. Hollow was pitched, I thought it was a brilliant idea, but in execution, I thought it cheated, because what it's supposed to be is a single picture that over the course of, what is it, 15 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that?
It's only like 5 minutes long.
Let me see.
Or at least I don't remember it being terribly long at all.
Yes.
No,
She is in the picture.
6 minutes. She is in the picture. Okay.
Oh, shit.
But
we've lost all video.
Oh, dear.
on the stream?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it open.
No, it's not. It's Streamlabs. Damn it.
Okay. You need to do a restart?
I can't do a restart. Oh, I know what happened. Okay. I'm going to switch over to the viewing screen. Even it's probably not playing back because I have Tubi on, and the video driver probably is just going like, fuck you. So,
Stop multitasking.
I put it up on the viewing screen. I'm sure you guys will see it on the feed in a moment, but 5 seconds from now, you will see me circling around the original and then the other one. Yes, they're both in the frame.
Okay. But Facts in the Case of Mr. Hollow is supposed to be a single shot, but over the course of 6 minutes, I looked it up.
That was close.
The camera zooms in on different parts of the picture in order to tell a story within this single, initially apparently innocuous picture. But what happens is, as it pans around the picture changes.
Yeah.
Which I feel is cheating, because that was not what I was sold. But it is a neat little film. It's just not quite the work of genius that I was sold on. And that is sort of what I feel notes of that in this, where you did see the entire picture the first time. You just weren't looking in the right corner to see the actual event that, is significant. You were looking at the distraction over here.
Well, I mean, especially if Nate's theory is right, which honestly I'm now sold on. The entire movie is a supremely elegant misdirect. Which of course they do the full hat tip at the end, which I honestly appreciate. The movie would not have the reputation that it does at all if they didn't give us something at the end there, and not just the zoom in on the window in the house, but also going back into the prior pictures in the movie.
And it's also
it really does make the movie. It's
also somewhat of a gamble on the filmmaker's part, because what if everybody does notice her in every picture? What if we did? I mean, we all didn't, but what if most people did?
I was going to say we're better film viewers than most film.
But I'm just saying, like, in general, what if most people had noticed it? Then it just wouldn't have worked.
I don't know.
There's gonna be that one person in the theater who's like, dude,
Yeah, I mean, there's that. They did it well enough
That's
didn't
one
happen.
guy. And in the meantime, you're in one of the After Dark horror fests in something like 2008, 2009, somewhere thereabouts, which is where this hit in the United States. I mean, maybe you were going with other horror fans who are unusually attentive, and maybe you weren't. But at the same time, it's not like you can pause and wind back if you see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because, I mean, this sort of examination of photos is where you get a lot of the modern ghost hunter stuff. I actually worked with a guy who in his free time was a ghost hunter, and he had a couple of pictures on his phone that he would pull up if prompted, if the conversation came around to it, and he had an interesting one. I don't know quite what I was looking at, but if I squinted at it real hard, it sure could have looked like something. It was a room that was side lit with a mirror facing partially on. That was an old mirror that was kind of fogged and misted, and there could have been something in there if you really wanted to see it, but that is exactly the sort of close analysis that gives rise to the sort of the modern ghost culture. You have all these, photographic orbs and stuff.
Oh,
orbs
God.
are not just specks of light; they're genuine evidence of spiritual forms. And I don't believe it, but
I learned all about that shit in photography class. I learned how to replicate it. It's so fucking disprovable. That one bothers me the most, that people still believe that shit.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's why this one didn't connect with me so much, because I'm like, I've seen all this shit before, So I mean, I understand this is like sincerely done. It's very well done, but that bias going in, I'm like, okay, a blurry photo in the corner. All right, we've been here before, and maybe it's also because it's not an old movie, but it's been a while.
It's before all that stuff got really huge.
Yeah.
It was kind of the front runner of ghostly, well done, documentary style, whatever, supernatural shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What? Did you like my word salad there?
Oh, absolutely. Always.
Thank you. Well, I love this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. It does still creep me out, that shot of her, the doppelganger, all bloated and whatnot. That's when I was like, oh shit, there's kind of a time travel element to this. She could see the future. Well, not travel, just vision.
Or in this case, straight up photograph it. That's
previous. The cosmos was telling her, you're in trouble. Something's gonna happen. We think you know what it is. Let's show you as many clues as we can. You're wet. You're bloated. Stay away from water. Just forever. Just stay away from it.
Yeah, but would that have worked? I think she was doomed.
Yeah, that's the problem with doppelganger stories, is that when you see the doppelganger, it's an inevitability. Because if you avoid it, that ruins the story. So
if you avoid it, it comes to you. It'll be brought to you somehow.
Don't look now.
She was fine.
Oh yeah, good call. Good call. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Knowing that's exactly what I would have done, though. I would have just stayed away from water.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't watch.
I mean, unless of course it's Japanese. Unless of course it's a Japanese ghost, in which case even staying away from water is simply not going to help.
No, you're just fucked if it's a Japanese ghost.
If it's a Japanese ghost, if you're aware of it, you're fucked. You're dead.
Yeah. all
I will
Japanese
say,
ghost stories are essentially there's a ghost, someone goes to see it, and the ghost gets them. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
Almost
everyone
all of them have some kind of, but they all have some kind of way out to let a main character survive, except for one missed call. Where they try in the third one, they're like, we finally found where her fucking body is. Let's burn it to ashes, and maybe she'll be happy, and we'll like bow to her, and everything will be great. And they do everything right. And is that one Sadako?
Sadako was The Grudge.
Yeah, that's a Grudge.
Oh, that was okay.
I forget the one missed call.
I don't remember. Yeah. Since it's a parody of The Ring anyway. But in the third one,
one certainly was.
The third one, it turns out, no, She's gonna do it anyway. You know why?
Yeah, well,
She fucking loves it. She's good at her job, and she's gonna get shit done. That's essentially what the plot is about.
well, I mean,
And I'm not
yeah,
being super hyperbolic there.
No.
not the U.S. version of The Ring rather famously has the moment where that distinguishes it from a Western ghost story in which they find the body, they pull it out of the well, they give it an honest burial, and she comes home to her kid and says, "Don't worry, we put her to rest." And the kid goes, "You weren't supposed to help her.
You weren't supposed to take her out of the well. Don't you understand? She never sleeps."
Yeah. But he says you weren't supposed to help her. It doesn't matter. You can try to appease the ghost. It won't work.
I never
You
even
know?
saw the second American one. I wasn't a big fan of the
But not in
first
the-
American one.
Not the
I loved the first American one. I'm in that minority that actually prefers Verbinski to Nakatas.
I don't think you're in the minority. If you take, well, I think that is the majority, but I think aficionados, you're in the minority.
It depends.
That's a
on
fair
the,
delineation.
It depends on the subpopulation. The elitists will always go with the original over the remake, and then there's the people who've actually seen both of them.
Hey, I'm plenty elitist.
I have seen both of them. I prefer the original, and I chalk that up to it having been seen first.
That's fair.
I saw it first. Also, glitzy, like expensive sets and Hollywood actors and cameras do not impress me.
Didn't one of us, I don't remember which one of us, maybe it wasn't us, but didn't somebody here prefer the American remake of Old Boy to the original?
It was not me.
I liked the American version of Old Boy, but I wouldn't say I preferred it.
I think it actually, I mean, I think it has a cool ending, but
I had a strong defense of the American version of Old Boy, but I would not say that I would not say that I preferred it.
I don't remember what I said about it. I don't think I had any feelings on the thing. I never have.
Either of them?
I don't dislike either of them. I don't like either of them. I've seen both of them. I know what happens in them. I don't feel anything.
For the record, I liked The Ring too, but it had a very more of the same quality to it. Which in its own way feels sort of meta in comparison to Japanese ghost story films as well. Everyone who goes in the house dies.
Just give me Ju-on the Grudge 28 and I'll be happy. That's the Resident Evil of ghost stories.
I think it was Ju-on, but apparently that was like part 3 or something. Or I watched one of the Grudge movies and it wasn't the first one. I had no idea what was going on.
Everyone who goes in the house dies.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole plot.
There are at least 5 of them that are the same movie. And I mean literally the same movie remade.
Yep.
Yeah, Takashi Shimizu himself once famously said when somebody asked him when he was going to stop remaking The Grudge, he would said, "When they stop paying me to."
Yeah.
In the meantime, he's still a pretty interesting director if he gets away from that one.
Oh, did he finally get away? I remember for a long time it was like 20 years of The Grudge.
He's made a few things on the side. But even so. We kind of got far afield from Lake Mungo there, but
I felt good about that conversation. I got to present my theory, and I felt very good about it.
I
totally stand by that.
I'm pretty
You've sold me, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced on it too.
I think it also makes watching the movie a little more fun because it's almost like every time they see some clue that's out of left field, and you could almost feel like Alice is just like.
Like I say, I kind of sort of had a feeling, but you actually did the Sam Spade work, and I appreciate that immensely.
No problem. All right, well, our other film that people watched, I did not watch. Savageland.
Is that intentional, or did you not get to it?
That was intentional. There's apparently a lot. There's a lot of child death in it, so I skipped it.
I didn't get to it.
Oh.
So it's pretty much just me and Wagner.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little limited.
Yeah. It'll just be a shorter segment before we get into stuff we've watched.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I go first?
Well, I would say I'm the one who saw this for the second time, so I was the one who had suggested in the first place. I am very interested in what you think of it.
Okay. These two films back to back did not reflect well on the second film. Um, the premise in the film is a little bit of the Facts in the Case of Mr. Hollow, in that it is, as you presented it to us, a found footage film, but it's found footage in the form of a reel of 36 exposures on a camera.
Yeah.
I wish it was more of that, because
It does take a little while to get to the meat there.
it's not. And in the first film, there was excellent craft, there was excellent acting, but it was all in service of the plot. I still hold to that. It's just the plot was more complicated than I, on first watching, realized. In this one, it was not as technically proficient, and the acting was not nearly as good. There was a lot of really hammy actors in this one.
The sheriff was particularly hammy.
Yeah.
Granted that's a certain sort of character that to some extent I think we might be sort of familiar with as a trope in the American Southeast. In any case, I imagine it goes for the Southwest to some extent as well. That said, he was definitely a little bit broad. That did strike me on this viewing.
More than a little bit, but more than the acting, the plot in this one.
It is not subtle.
it was threadbare, and it was very dumb. So, shall I go into an explanation of the story, or do you want to cover it?
No. I mean, like you go into it.
All right, because so basically, there is a tragedy, lot of deaths, and one person is caught with like 15 different people's blood on him. He is arrested. He is stitched up and railroaded for it, and other people come behind and say, "Now wait, this doesn't make sense." And it is because he is a Mexican immigrant in a tiny little border town, and he's illegal immigrant, and they hang a lot of political stuff on that, because every plot hole in this film they fill with racism. That
you're not wrong.
This is not believable. It is not believable that they could think he did this. Well, they're all racist, so that's why they believe it. This sounds like a plausible story. Now let me tell you the details. The border town has 52 people in it.
57.
57. And in the course of the events, which we never encounter, we only ever see it through this roll of photographs and through people talking about the aftermath.
They never talk about the event?
They talk about the event in a ridiculous fashion, because basically, when they go to trial, they hold that this one 5'6" man, in the course of 12 hours, went into a town of 57, killed all of them, ate 27 people, and buried the other 30 somewhere else. In 12 hours.
Yeah, that's not
That's a lot of eating.
You see, when you put it that way.
If I put this in a D&D campaign, no one would buy it. And fortunately for us, at the very end of the film, there are investigative journalists, one of whom is from Los Angeles.
Ooh.
And he comes in, yes, and he points out that this used to be an area where the KKK was operating. And therefore, his theory is that the KKK descended upon this town and ate everyone.
What?
It's a zombie movie that they're trying to blame on one guy.
But zombies don't bury people. Like, okay, what?
No. The bodies are missing. So they're assuming that he took them off somewhere and buried them.
And then how do they know that some were eaten?
Because the ones that were left all had large portions of them eaten.
Oh, so they weren't all taken.
No, 23 bodies. What is 23 bodies?
Something like 27 was found. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Bodies were found, and they were large portions of them eaten, and also spread all over the place.
Are you sure they didn't eat 30 people and leave 27 behind half-eaten because they got full?
That I think the theory is that
I
the
don't
other
know.
ones were bitten, walked off with them, and then the going theory is this event apparently took place years ago, and there have been subsequent attacks, sort of in a line going northward, and yet no one has
That's the hat tip in
encountered
this
this.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one has encountered this zombie mob. So the story is it's a zombie story of zombies descended upon this small border town and killed everybody except for this one guy who escaped, taking pictures the whole time, and the authorities, because racism, blamed all of their deaths on him. This is not a plausible story.
It's not a subtle film in its aims. I will absolutely give it that. The execution, I have to allow, I like the execution better than Matt makes it sound.
Okay.
It is a raw exploitative film in a very sort of muckraking, overtly political fashion.
Yeah.
When
we intersperse
yeah.
a lot of the footage with radio broadcasts from a local right-wing pundit talking about this, that, or the other. We get a bunch of yokels down at the bar telling racist jokes. Like Andy says, it's not subtle. And the part he warned you about was that there was a preschool in this town. And a couple of the last couple pictures are of the guy coming upon the preschool. That's all we'll go into. Yeah.
Does the guy does he like just take the fall, or does there a happy ending for him or a sad ending?
There's no happy ending.
What happens to
the
him?
Thing is, there are like zombies on the photos he took, but everyone's saying, "Oh, that's photoshopped. Clearly, he killed everyone."
Well, the chain of evidence on the photos was enough to make the thing inadmissible even in the retrial on the whole affair. That actually felt legally credible.
Yeah.
The photos themselves are freaking amazing.
Yeah, the roll of film was found in the cab of the trucker who picked up the guy initially, and the trucker took him to a hospital.
Yeah, the guy had one interview right after the whole thing, and then he just kind of shut down completely, and eventually was executed, and eventually his grave was found to be empty.
Right, so he's a zombie now.
I'm glad I didn't watch this. I'm really glad. This sounds awful.
It's actually a lot better than he makes it sound. That said,
it's not awful, but when the story doesn't work for me, that is a real sticking point in my enjoyment of a film.
I feel like you don't get to be that much of a downer unless you really nail it.
That's a fair point. I don't know. When you do explain the plot like that, I will allow. You do manage to make it sound fairly absurd, and on its face, there is a lot of inherent absurdity that is hand-waved because racism. The movie is about the because racism.
But it's dumb at doing it.
And was the entire town in the middle of the place, and the zombies I don't understand how that's even plausible. Do they explain anything?
No. It's in the middle of a desert, but I mean, people can still run into a desert. It's not like it's a wall. There's one point where they found 8 people who had climbed up on the water tower and threw themselves off rather than face whatever was coming up the ladder at them.
One guy, supposedly?
Yeah, one guy, supposedly.
8 guys killed themselves.
Who never made it to that side of town anyway, which they establish in the movie.
I don't care how racist you are. One guy coming after you is not going to cause 8 people to jump off the tower.
Yeah, you cannot just say racism and have that be the event. That's insane. That is an insane suspension of disbelief.
Coming after Lake Mungo, the movie it definitely has its flaws shown in starker relief. As I say, it is a rawly exploitative film. which I was struck with
yeah.
definitely a bit more aggressively, given some of the stuff that I had forgotten about it from my last viewing. That being said, as kind of broad and muckraking and downright cheesy as the movie is at the time, I find this film frightening, which is not a way that I would describe things lightly.
So
something about this one.
Sorry, go
something about this one gets to me.
Is it frightening in its implication, or is it frightening in the events that we, the more intelligent audience, know actually happened in the town?
Or is it frightening in the same way that Monster in My Closet is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, and I'm the only one who feels that way because it was effective on me at the perfect time, and I didn't know till later in life that it was supposed to be a comedy.
You mean the one with Henry Gibson as the mad scientist?
Mm-hmm.
No, that creature was pretty freaking creepy.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what it's one of those ones where I essentially end up with my opinion, and if I have to explain it, it's a matter of reverse engineering. It is a film that I think is better than its flaws, which are copious. If that makes any sense. Like I say, I had forgotten about the preschool. I had remembered the final shots on the roll of film. That was one of the, which were at the preschool, but it was that one particular girl that he had gone there to try to save.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there is.
I don't know that particular
subplot
note at the end of the film struck me as a little malicious.
Do zombies leave things partially eaten?
I'm not sure they're zombies in the classical sense.
It's not clear that they're actual. That's the thing. We're never given an explanation for what they are.
Yeah.
It's not like they're near a government testing facility, or they're near an old bomb testing site, or
Indian burial ground.
I actually think that this is a stealth entry in the Italian Demons series.
That actually kind of makes sense
because a lot of the photographs, what you can make out of the marauding creature / people / entities, do not especially resemble even what a dead person would tend to look like. Even horrendously mutilated.
I give credit to the film in that it is a horror film in which none of the actual horror occurs, which sounds dumb, but it's actually kind of smart. This is what I had actually hoped they were going to do with World War Z. My ideal world is the one in which World War Z was a movie of nothing but in-person interviews, like it was in the book.
Yeah.
Have you heard the audiobook with the full cast? It's incredible.
No, but I've read the book. I've never heard the audiobook.
Really good.
Yeah. Amazingly enough, there was basically a ripoff of World War Z that it was supposed to get released around the same time, like an asylum type thing that was supposed to be a talking history of a zombie war. But as far as I know, either it never got released or I've just never accidentally stumbled across it. And unfortunately, I can't remember what the hell it was supposed to be called. But no, that was absolutely the World War Z that I wanted as well.
Exactly.
And hopefully they might still make it one of these days.
In this one, the only scenes in which the horror actually occurs are the handful of photographs, and they got people all dressed up.
And the crime scene shots in the aftermath.
Yeah, which were not particularly graphic. They were mostly like things covered over, sheets. There weren't sheets over bodies.
The ones in the preschool, despite not having any body parts, just implements and blood, are legitimately upsetting.
Yeah, and it's effective in that respect. But the reel of photographs is some pretty amazing work. I almost get the feeling that they kind of started with that as the core idea of the picture and tried to reverse engineer the rest of the movie around it. Yeah. But this is not as ambitious a picture as Lake Mungo is. It is not as artistic a picture as Lake Mungo is. It has a raw effectiveness in its own right that I find arresting. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a difficulty because I say that it's impressive that they did this without showing any of the horror, but it also ends up trending in the direction that I saw with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, in which most of the film is spent with people grieving over the people who were killed in the first film, which is kind of missing the point of a fun Halloween movie. So this is, yeah. Let's
love
spend
Halloween
time
2.
with. Wait. Is this Halloween 2 the original or
The
Halloween 2
original.
Rob
Are
Zombie?
you talking about the new one?
I'm talking about Rob Zombie.
Oh, I don't like any of the Rob Zombies. No.
Yeah, I only recently saw that one, which is why it's.
I also didn't like the
fourth in
new
list.
Halloween 2.
I didn't like that one either. But it seems to be, it leans more into, let's follow the sheriff around whose daughter has now been killed, and he gets to encounter that, and he grieves over her for a solid 10 minutes of the film. Isn't movie-going fun? No, you have to feel the impact of it. No, this is a horror movie. We are here for escapism. Don't we don't spend any time with Stormtrooper B, who got shot in the first scene, who has an ailing mother with a terminal disease, and he's just working in order to get the treatments, in order to pay for the
You've
treatment.
actually described a movie that I would really like to see.
Except it was also done badly. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
okay, so
And
but
we're back off the map.
right, but to get back on the map, it felt like this movie was leaning that way as well, because it was mostly interviews spent with relatives of the people in the town, saying, "Man, if he did it, he should fry," etc., and other things
It's
to
also
that effect.
it's also a movie that makes a lot of what a basically non-existent budget. This movie has talking heads and stuff that, as an ex-professional haunter,
Mhm.
I really dug. But that's all in still photographs, like effectively, staged and executed. Like I say, there is no money on screen, but it's all on screen. Now, this movie clearly had a much smaller budget, even than Lake Mungo, which itself did not have a whole lot of money behind it, and most of what was there
$1.6 million.
most of what was there was provided by the Australian government. Yeah, bless national endowments for artistic purposes.
Australia's is really good too. I mean, that made Peter Jackson.
That was New Zealand.
No, that was the New Zealand Film Commission. Yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Yeah.
Shit, don't get those mixed up. I don't like that. The one I always love is the Irish film,
especially the Kiwis.
Irish lottery. The national lottery that pays for so much of the Irish films we get, that all turn out to be really pretty entertaining horror films. But I don't want to shit on the movie too much, but it's a real sticking point if I run into a plot that simply just does not make sense to me. That's fair. That's the impression I come away with. I appreciate every movie is a miracle. Every movie that actually makes it to the point of a viewable object is a miracle. And good on them for making do with no budget and with what I'm assuming are local actors.
Well, if you watch the credits of the thing, it looks like the various photographs on the reel were actually staged in multiple locations, presumably by a fairly talented collection of near amateurs.
I will say one thing: I think the CGI fly-throughs were a bad move.
This, like I say, this has the feeling of. Well, how a lot of true crime documentaries are themselves exploitative.
Yeah.
This feels like one of the more exploitative true crime documentaries.
There were several points in the film where they had a CGI recreation of the town, and they did a fly through it to show the supposed path the main character took in killing the entire town, or in just following his photographs around. So.
Actually, the point Jenna just makes ties in. Well, I'll save it, but it ties in directly to one of the things I watched this past week. So,
and speaking of which, it's about time to move on from our films and go into what did we watch this week. Let's start with Shane.
I'm going.
Okay, I didn't watch a whole lot. Well, so one of the my friends, so I've been doing these group watches on Twitch, and so my friend decided to follow suit and hosted a group watch of the first 2 episodes of the new season of Black Mirror, which is a show I love. First episode, well, with Salma Hayek, it's okay. It's I won't say too much about it, but it's a little lighter than previous seasons. Second one, all of us unanimously could not understand what the point of this episode was. It's basically it's about the making of a true crime documentary. And the point seems to be is that true crime documentaries are often exploitative. That seems to be the Black Mirror. That's, there's usually, we were all waiting for some twist about technology because that's what the show is about. But
this takes place in the future, 1996.
It takes place, I think, in the 90s. It's just a straightforward portrayal of this documentary team making a film, and then at the end they win a bunch of awards despite personal costs, things that happen to them. And that seems to be the entire point, is that this kind of filmmaking often is not, great. It was very strange. We could not figure out why this was a Black Mirror episode.
Might be one of those things they circle back on later, but you figure that it would still have to be self-justifying in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, it was well enough made. The acting was fine. Just it didn't seem relevant to the show at all. I also watched a couple more episodes of Silo. I'm gonna finish it, but I don't know. I'm pretty bored by it. They seem to have really moved away from the big, like, what is the silo? What's outside? They've kind of moved away from that and are kind of settling into the whole. There's a new sheriff in town and people don't like her. I think there's 3 episodes left, but I know people are praising it. I know Jenner, your brother, was really into it. I don't know if you've started it yet.
I still haven't started. I still need to.
Okay. The final thing is I saw The Flash. I don't need to get into how I saw The Flash. Not a big fan of Ezra Miller and what's been going on. Flash was okay. Has anyone seen it? Anyone else seen it?
No.
I went and read Flash.
I don't plan on seeing it.
I plan on seeing it, so
yeah, I won't spoil too much. I went back and reread Flashpoint, which is what it's based on. So what they did was they did the opposite of what Marvel did. So Marvel took Civil War, which was a terrible comic story,
True.
and then made it their own, made it work in their universe, and made it good. They took Flashpoint and they made it worse. They took out one of the more interesting parts of Flash. I don't know how much you guys know about Flashpoint. Or if you've seen the animated film.
Flashpoint.
I've seen at least 2 of the 3 existing adaptations it has already received.
Yeah, they took out the whole subplot with Aquaman and Wonder Woman being at war and destroying the planet, which was one of the coolest things about Flashpoint. I mean, they weren't going to do that anyways. I mean, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, it really would have.
Instead, it's just, Zod's here. He's in it for Michael Shannon's in it for 5 minutes. He's clearly not even phoning it in.
He's not even the main villain.
He is the main villain, but he's in it for 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
The threat, the villain, the threat of Zod is the plot. It's just that the fact that he's here. He's here and there's no Superman. That's the plot, and so that's how they end up finding Batman, and they're like, well, we have to find Superman, so they find Supergirl instead, as you all definitely know.
Everyone saw it in the trailer, yeah.
So I haven't spoiled anything. I mean, the main reason I ended up seeing it was Nate was so excited about one of the cameos, and I had to see who this was going to be. My guess was I won't spoil who the cameo was.
Okay.
My guess was that it was Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. I was trying to think of what would have made Nate excited to see.
That would have made me excited, but there's no way they did that.
They didn't. No, because it also wouldn't have. Because Michelle Pfeiffer, I mean, she's doing superhero movies again, but with the world-ending threat, Catwoman's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
So it didn't make any sense. But that was what I thought going in. The actual cameo that Nate was excited about, which I won't spoil, is I'm fairly confident that the person did not film anything for this movie.
Yeah, I just read that.
It was just CGI.
That's why I no longer have interest in it.
It was like Rogue One Leia CGI. They show up for like 3 seconds.
Could I ask that Andy take his headphones off for a moment so I could hear who the cameo is?
Or just okay.
He paused for a moment.
Who is it? It's
Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Okay.
And it is the lead up to it. You do see for a second Superman fighting a giant spider. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, it's fucking Nicolas Cage, and it was. Okay. But it's like a 3 second shot.
Oh.
Okay, that's all we need. Okay. How do we get Andy's attention back?
So it was Nicolas Cage's Batman from Batman Triumphant.
No, it was not.
Aw.
Was he ever cast as Batman?
He was supposed to be Batman in the sequel to Batman and Robin.
So basically, there's a multiverse where Nicolas Cage has played every character.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to go to the universe where Nicolas Cage has played whichever part you need.
That worked.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage's Catwoman is an odd universe, but
I have no plans to see The Flash. I wanted to see that cameo. Shane explained it to me, so I read up on it, and then I found a picture of it, and that was enough for me.
okay.
Well, okay then.
I like Flashpoint. I don't care about the
I'm
Snyder
still gonna give it-
DCU.
Yeah.
Supergirl was very good. I hope they don't. I guess they're resetting everything. I mean, I wouldn't mind if she stuck around. She was quite good. Of course, once she shows up, then there's nothing for anybody else to do because she just wrecks house.
Yeah.
Which is what happens when bad writers are handed Superman.
Yeah.
Everybody says if Superman's on your team, why do you need to have anybody else on the team? Well, you need a good writer who is able to make that work.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, then you have a movie where Superman just dominates everything.
Superman does not have the power to be everywhere simultaneously.
Yeah.
Superman is also weak against magic, which is something they always forget about.
Yep.
And mind control, which makes it especially terrifying.
It's happened so many times.
A lot of the present spate, and I can actually speak to this with one of my movies from this week as well. A lot of the present spate of DC movies have that, everybody sweep up the floor before you turn off the light and lock the room on the way out. Air to them. But no, I'll circle back on that in a bit.
Okay. That's all I saw this week. Flash was all right. I mean, you can wait for whatever streaming service it's going to be on. Since it's flop, it's not going to be out there for long. So
yeah,
it'll be on streaming soon.
I guess no Flash 2, where we actually talk about who killed Barry's mother, which is I thought that was going to be the goddamn villain, and apparently it's not addressed in any way whatsoever.
No, I believe in the movie it's an accident.
Yeah.
From what I recall.
Okay.
Really?
According to an interview with Muschietti or Muschietti?
I believe it's
Muschietti said that he confirmed that it was what was it, Zoom? And that he was going to be the villain of the Flash 2, and the script was already being worked on. I don't think we'll see that ever, but there you have it.
I've said before, seeing this on the way in, it looks like the third film in the Flash series. And realistically, if they hadn't had the abortive effort around 2014 and the abortive effort around 2018, it would actually have been the third film in the Flash series.
No, it is the third film in the Flash series. The first one was Justice League. The second one was Zack Snyder's Justice League. And the third one is this.
Also, the opening scene, Batman kills about 20 people. Not even alternate Batman, regular Batman. Straight up murders 20 people.
Remember, the Keaton Batman had no problem with killing anybody.
No, I'm talking about the Affleck Batman.
He has no problem with killing anybody either.
That's true.
Yeah. This is what happens when Adam West dies. Yeah. There was a in the recent comics history, I think Batman just hit 1,000 finally. And
you mean issue?
Issue.
No, he stopped killing people in the 60s, I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, like in the 50s.
But he's responsible for so many deaths.
Yes. But the story was Batman kind of falling through multiverses, which is what everyone does now. But he runs into Adam West Batman.
Oh yeah.
Adam West Batman says, I don't know where you're going or what you're doing, but you'll need this, and gives him a utility belt. And in the final scene, he is in space, and a Joker shark in space is coming at him. And what does he pull out of the utility belt? Bat shark
repellent.
And he says, I finally met a Batman more prepared than me. So, which was, I thought, just an honest good nod.
Well, I mean, credit where credit is due. The Batman 66 comic run was, amazing across the board. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
All
I'm not
Next.
going to remember everything I watched myself. I remember two things, and if I think of any others, I'll let you guys know later. I watched an episode of Breaking Bad. I'm now halfway, or not Breaking Bad, Better
was like,
Call
can you-
Saul.
Better Call Saul.
Oh, okay. Which season?
Last season, the final season. I'm halfway through it now.
Yeah.
Does anybody? Shane's seen it.
I've seen
Do
it,
either of you care about spoilers for Better Call Saul?
I'm
should.
gonna watch the
It's a
series
terrific show.
eventually.
I'm going to see it at some point. I'm not worried about spoilers, though.
Well, it's a main
Right.
character spoiler.
Just give me a thumbs
Okay.
up.
Wait. You
I
mean
will listen.
okay? So you're talking about where they split the season, right? Did they split the final season?
I don't
can't
think
remember.
so. If they did, they just have it as season 6.
Are you talking? Okay, never mind. You're talking about. How do I say this? How do I even? Okay, forget it. Just go ahead. I'm trying to figure out where you are exactly. I don't remember where halfway is. I don't remember what
Like
the
an
spoiler is.
episode ago, Nacho had his last stand.
Okay.
And I'm the episode after that where they know that Lalo is back. Saul and Kim know that Lalo is back, and what's his name? Howard got Saul into a boxing ring and punched him a bunch of times in revenge for the pranks they were playing on him. But the Nacho episode was okay, Jenner. I know you don't understand, but the prank was to make like very important people think that he was a cocaine addict and used hookers all the time. It's a really fuck him over, and he gets so mad. He's like, "Let's just beat each other up." And Saul's like, "No," but then his ego gets the better of him, and he's like, "Okay, let's do it." And then he gets the shit kicked out of him.
Oh, fine.
I mean, Howard kicks the shit out of Saul, and
Yeah, no, I got that.
And then he's like, "Let's dig up everything about this guy's life." At the end of the episode, so he's trying to fuck over Saul. That's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was Nacho and his death. He went out in probably the best way anybody has in that universe, in my opinion. When
I mean, it fucking sucked. I mean,
yeah.
It was rough.
But when he was like, "Oh, by the way, I put you in that wheelchair myself," and he was like, "Fuck the Salamancas, I would have done it for free." It's amazing. And then he just kills himself. He doesn't even give them the satisfaction. It's amazing.
What I'm not sure about is, so you're in Breaking Bad, the first episode where Saul's introduced, he mentions Lalo and Nacho. I don't know if you remember this. I went back and rewatched it. When they first meet him, they drag him out to the desert to murder him, Walt and Jesse.
Yeah.
And Saul panics. He's like, "Oh my God, who sent you? Was it Lalo? Was it Ignacio?" Implying that he believes they're both still alive.
Oh.
So I don't remember if they ever tied that up with him not knowing. I guess Saul just never hears about Nacho's death.
Yeah.
And also, it doesn't make sense why Saul would think that Nacho would be after him.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever. I don't think they ever tied that up. But that was.
It may just be a plot hole.
Well, because I know that they based this on, when they did Breaking Bad, that was just a throwaway line, just 2 throwaway names.
Yeah.
They went back and retconned that in. So
yeah,
it's interesting they didn't really tie the Nacho thing up. But anyway, that's just a little thing.
I'll let you know if there's something that you don't remember or something as I watch it. I'm going to finish it pretty soon because I want to get started on Silo. Anyway, Wagner. You are allowed to come back.
Oh, good. This is going to turn out to be a trend this time because I have some spoilers too. But
I don't care. The other thing I watched was Escape from New York. I showed it to the kids because it was Father's Day, so I got to pick a movie, and I picked Tank Girl, and I got about a third of the way into it before I said, "This is not appropriate." A lot of
what in particular?
The blowjob jokes, the child prostitution, the strip club where everybody's gyrating on each other. Tank Girl's
remember any of that.
Constant constant referrals to sex acts in very gross ways, which I find hilarious, but not
And
with my
entirely
8-year
appropriate to
old.
the source. Yeah,
Yeah.
entirely appropriate to the source material too.
I just remember the movie being very colorful and cheerful, and I loved it. And so watching it again, I forgot all about those super adult elements. So we stopped watching that, and I got him to watch Escape from New York because I'd never seen it, and I loved it as usual. It's great. It's a great
Big
movie.
surprise.
The kids were just nonplussed, and I'm not surprised.
I can see that. Yeah.
They both said that Snake Plissken is the coolest character they have ever seen in their entire lives. I agree
That
with
doesn't
that.
sound nonplussed.
This is true.
But the movie was boring.
Oh.
It's a very slow movie.
It is. Yeah, it could be a little.
I-
slow.
Well,
I
but
sincerely.
it has the sewer mutants coming up through a coffee bar after it.
After Kurt Russell's then wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
I hold that Escape from LA is really, really underrated.
I agree. It is a bad movie. It's a bad movie.
But it is such a good bad movie.
Right, exactly.
I enjoy it more than I enjoy Escape from New York.
I do too.
And I saw both of them again recently, and I stand by that.
Was that Bruce
A long
Campbell
time.
as the
Bruce Campbell is
yeah.
the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Yes.
And then Peter Fonda.
Yeah, Peter Fonda, Stacy Keach, of course. Yeah.
I just
fun
remember
cast all over the place.
I just remember the basketball scene, thinking that doesn't seem that hard. I've never tried it, but
It's funny. They definitely CGI'd that shot. And apparently, at some point, when Sigourney Weaver and Kurt Russell were like hanging out or at a party or something, she was like, "I got mine."
Yeah.
I think I've seen a video of the take. You can see the people in the background. You can see like Ron Perlman,
Ron Perlman
grinning.
almost blew that shot with that. You can just make it out at the corner of the frame. He was like, "Oh shit."
That's a proper reaction, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And that was something like I don't know, like the 8th take, I think, or something like that.
It was
frickin'
an insignificant
nailed
amount
it.
of takes.
Yeah.
That's Alien Resurrection.
Resurrection.
which I have not seen. I've never seen anything past 3.
Oh.
Nothing past 3. Not even the newer ones.
Ooh,
I have them.
well,
Okay, let's table that.
I have the whole
tabling
box
that.
set.
Tabling that.
I'm not counting AVP in those, but I have the whole box set of all the aliens.
I do.
Covenant. Never watched past the 3rd. I've only seen the 3rd one one time, and that was a very long time ago.
Well, Jenner and Wagner haven't gone. Let's do your guys first, and we will keep Alien Resurrection on the table for next week. We'll discuss it after this segment.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Migo or you go?
You go ahead.
Okay. So I watched a couple of things. The first one was continuing Jacques Tati Watch Fest. This is Parade. It is his 6th and final full-length film, my understanding. I haven't read all the details. I haven't looked stuff up. I was a little bit underwhelmed by that one. Again, I'm kind of a plot guy. I don't insist on plot, but when there's no plot there, you're gonna have to do something to entertain me. And this is more of the same. It's very gentle humor. It's just a film in which people go to a circus, an indoor circus, with a stage and everything. And there's a bunch of tumbling acts and some juggling acts and musical comedy and a whole lot of mime work by Tati himself, right?
Yeah.
He does a bunch of mime pieces in it, which, again, the comedy is so gentle. I almost don't know what to do with it because it is so inoffensive and so gentle, and
It's like a pillow for me. I love the gentleness.
It's a hard watch for mean bastards like us.
See, I can adjust. But I had to take it in 2 pieces because of how my timing worked out. I think I would have had trouble with it watching it all at once.
Wow.
I like the tumbling acts the best. just because they were pretty damn good, and it just felt like a '70s variety show, honestly.
I mean, I think once starting with Traffic, I think you have diminishing returns on his work
Mm.
as he got older and sicker. And I don't rewatch Traffic and Beyond. I just don't. I watch Playtime, Mon Oncle, and the other one that I can't remember.
Mr. Udo's Holiday.
Yeah,
The
Holiday.
Holiday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Those are the three I watch, and I don't stray
Well,
from
there's
that.
his first one too with the bicycle.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to remember the name of it because it's entirely in French. The Bicycle Messenger or the. Yeah. Anyway, go on. That was his earliest, I think.
Well, those are the three that I continuously rewatch when I rewatch them. That's one way I introduced the kids to physical comedy and sound comedy, which led to introducing them to Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, all those folks. And
Yeah. See, I started my daughter with Steamboat Bill Jr.
Oh, nice.
She came in. She just came in one time when I was watching, and she said, "Can I sit with you?" I said, "Yes, but we're watching Daddy's movie, and it's very old, so there's no sound." She's like, "Okay."
Did
She
you
got a
point
little
out?
bored at some points, but she loved it,
you
especially
point
when
out-
we got to the storm.
I was going to say, did you point out the bit where Buster Keaton literally broke his back?
No, I didn't know about that one.
I didn't know about that either.
That bit where he's hanging on the underside of the water tower, and the water washes him down onto the tracks below. No, I think
No,
I'm
that's
thinking of
the
something else.
general. Is that the general?
No, well, it wasn't the general.
Well, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Steamboat Bill Jr.
You might be. It was Sherlock Jr. Never mind.
Oh, I have seen that one after a while.
No, that was the one where it wasn't actually it wasn't his back. It was Buster Keaton broke his neck on that movie, which he didn't even discover for years afterwards until a doctor looked at him, did a double take, ran out of the room, came back with another X-ray machine, shot him again. Is like, so when did you break your neck, Mr. Keaton?
He's like,
he recalled
a number of times.
he recalled it was a little sore for a little while after that, but no, that was Sherlock Jr. So anyway, that was my mistake. Those juniors run together.
Now, Wagner, are you gonna watch the animated film?
Of
the Jacques Tati animated film of his final script that was never made. So they made an animated version.
I have never heard. This is my first encounter with Tati, is getting this box set and going through it. I was not aware of that. There is a final disc on the Criterion Collection of his shorts. I don't know if it's included
The Illusionist
in there.
from 2010.
That was it.
I have. Oh, that makes a lot more sense now. I've seen The Illusionist. I was not aware that it was Jacques Tati.
Yeah, he's drawn as Hulot and everything.
Yes, he is. I can absolutely see that in retrospect. I wasn't at all familiar with him at the time, so I didn't know that's what the reference was.
Yep.
That was a very good and very... Actually, it had very much the same sort of maudlin, gentle humor to it, but was much more bittersweet, I'd say, at the end. It's a very good movie, but it's not one I've revisited yet.
No,
it's by the same group that did Triplets of Belleville.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we watched was for movie night we showed the kids Spider-Man Enter the
Spider-Verse.
Into the first one?
The first Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
Because then we went to the theater and we took the kids to the theater to see the one that's currently in the theater.
Yay!
So I have seen the new Spider-Verse movie.
Nice.
Visually, it is absolutely stunning. It makes a point of mixing a whole bunch of artistic styles. Hubie Brown absolutely steals this film. How many of you have seen it?
I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
No spoilers. I have not seen it yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Hubie Brown absolutely steals the movie. He's in a small portion of it, and I wish he was in every frame of that fucking film. Hubie Brown is Spider-Punk. If you don't know,
played by Daniel Kaluuya.
Nice.
I don't know him, but
the guy from Get Out.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, okay.
nice. Yeah,
And Nope. Yeah.
he comes in with absolute classic punk attitude. There's a point where he's walking with Miles through the big headquarters like technology center, and he keeps just breaking things off of computers he's walking by. It must not be important. So he's absolutely and he steals every moment he's on the screen. The characterization is great. They expand upon Gwen to a large degree, and it's all great. They're building the relationship between her and Miles, and it feels honest. I do have two problems with the film, and they're both spoilerish. So, if you want to skip spoilers,
I do.
now is the time to do it. Okay. So pop your
You and
headphones
me.
off for just a second. It's you and me. That's
All
a
right.
rarity. So the first one is I've seen this plot before a bunch of times. Anything having to do. Go ahead.
Do I have time for a smoke?
Probably not, honestly.
Okay.
I'm going to cover them quickly. Where anything having to do with a time travel character, where they come up with the ridiculous Doctor Who fixed points in time for why you have to let the tragedy occur, because the big bureaucracy says you have to let the tragedy occur.
Isn't this part of Loki as well? I don't remember Loki as much. It seems,
That it feels similar there. I mean, it connects to Loki, but in sci-fi, they run into the problem that wish fulfillment can't be completely wish fulfillment, because if it is, then you have no story left. So I've seen this story a bunch of times where the newbie is inducted into the super high-tech science fiction world and then told that there are inviolate rules that he can't break, because if he does, the universe will collapse on him. So I'm sick of that. And the real problem I have with this is we get to the end of it and we find out it's a part one.
See, I had heard that going in. But did you not know that?
I did not know that at all.
Okay, I think they know. I think
So,
Nate and Jenner both know.
Okay.
But apparently the second one's coming out in less than a year. It's like next May is scheduled.
I am still so worried that they're hobbiting it.
Yeah, I am. I'm worried. I don't know what they're going to do. I hope they have it. I hope they wrote it together as one.
Yeah.
I mean, did you? So you didn't know it was could be part one. When we're getting towards like the last half hour, did you have the feeling like how the fuck are they going to wrap this up? Like,
I also didn't know how long it was, so I was worried that I was sitting with two 7-year-olds and a 5-year-old in a 3-hour movie, and then it just ended. So
okay.
It was kind of a relief and kind of a shit.
But I mean, I thought the way they set up the end and the cliffhanger was awesome. Like,
it was.
If
I'd known it was coming, I would have appreciated it more. But I was like, oh my God, I would have been checking my watch if I'm the kind of asshole who pops open his phone in the film, but I'm not. So I was just like, man, this feels like we've been here a while. Okay.
Yeah.
We good to go back in?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm told one of the spoilerish bits are things you already know, but I'm not going to tempt fate by telling you.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right. Why don't they just start making all superhero movies animated?
I mean, they make a good case for it here.
Yeah, they do. It is freaking beautiful. And all the trick is that the different art styles follow the characters around to some degree, specifically Spider-Punk, and he is zine format, cut and paste materials brought together in all of his appearances.
Yeah,
it's
basically,
amazing.
Yeah, basically like the cover of Nevermind the Bollocks.
Nice. Well, why don't we get to Jenner? Unless you had anything else you watched. Okay.
I'm good.
All right.
I started keeping a list of what I was watching.
Oh shit!
Which
that didn't even occur to me.
Which is probably overdue in my case. Let's see.
Rewatch bin.
And I started this actually the night of the last episode. So it starts off with Fast X, which is
I do want to see it.
Which is the quality cinematic Burger King meal that I had. It's fun if you like that series. As I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a superhero series where everybody's superpower is car.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Advance warning, and probably not too much of a spoiler. It's a cliffhanger.
I
Yeah,
knew it
but-
was a
I
two-parter.
knew
But-
it's a two-parter. Yeah.
Three-parter,
Oh,
supposedly.
what? I didn't know that. Okay.
Supposed to be I've heard tell it's a three-parter. It is at least a two-parter. But in any event, so it was as expected.
I worry. Is the next one going to take place in China, and it's going to be Fast XI, or the leader of China?
I'm still waiting.
That is.
That is reaching.
Yeah.
I am still waiting for Fast to the Future. That's all I'm saying. In any event, I mean, it's universal. It's right there. It writes itself. They already went to space.
Have we learned nothing from Leprechaun?
So do they one up space in Fast X or no?
No.
No.
No, they do not. But let's see. The following day, ended up watching Kids versus Aliens, which was from the director of I imagine you probably have it up there. Hobo with a Shotgun, which is also sort of a cliffhanger, but not in the way that you expect them to make another movie in the franchise. That said, bracingly fun little picture, deliberately, fairly nasty, exploitative 80s-ish throwback. Nifty little movie from the guy who made Hobo with a Shotgun, which kind of tells you all you need to know. Aside from really good soundtrack, a human villain who is one of the more memorably horrible teenagers in recent history. Really solid lead performances in a lot of regards, and just a good time, and short enough to not wear out its welcome at about, I want to say, 81 minutes, something like that.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Went back and caught an unbelievably obscure movie that was released in 2020 called The Man in the Woods. Which, if you look this up, you'll see a cast that would have you scraping your jaw up off the floor that you're not aware of this movie at all, because you aren't. Movie has William Jackson Harper, Chidi from The Good Place, most recently also in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and just tremendously good actor.
I think his legal name is now Chidi.
Sam Waterston, Jane Alexander, a bunch of other interesting sort of that person faces. Unbelievably obscure film noir ish movie with a possible sort of supernatural element to it about a missing girl at a school in the 1960s.
What's it called again?
The Man in the Woods. There is almost no documentation of it online that I could find off of IMDb whatsoever, except weirdly enough appearing in the top 100 of 2020 list by Scout Tafoya, the guy who does the Unloved column for RogerEbert.com. So that's interesting. But has some, the plot is, or the writing is a little bit basic, and it does drag a little bit in its third act, but it has unbelievably beautiful photography, which is black and white, very very high contrast black and white for most of the movie, but for the few bits that are in color, it is this absolutely gorgeous, like hyper technicolor type color. So an interesting
Man in the Woods. I'm going to try to put up some of these images so that our listeners can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, interesting little movie with, amongst other things, very, very effectively stylized dialogue. Really interesting cast. Has a certain kind of a play quality to it, but did have one absolute, heart leap out of your skin moment in the movie, as well as the usual absolutely freaking amazing performance by William Jackson Harper, who turns up a little before the halfway of the point of the movie and pretty much walks away with the picture. So he's turned into a really reliable character actor. Anyways,
we go. Okay. Yeah, it looks gorgeous. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, the photography is categorically amazing and is worth seeing just for that, especially for, even if it's a little draggy in the last third, not being particularly long at all.
Oh, they shot this anamorphic. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's freaking beautiful. Also, saw a recent picture that just dropped on Hulu called Jagged Mind, which is Groundhog Day if it was a lesbian voodoo psychological thriller.
I'm sorry, say that again. The
a movie, a movie with a genre of one.
Yeah, actually a fairly nifty, if slightly predictable little picture. But
I'm sorry, what was the title of that?
Jagged Mind. It's a Hulu original. It's one of those things that starts off looking like it's going a certain way, and you figure out relatively directly what's happening, but it's still pretty interesting and benefits significantly from really, really, really solid lead work by the two leads. One of whom was Maisie Richardson Sellers, who played Charlie in some of the later the shapeshifter in a lot of the later seasons of Legends of Tomorrow. If you watch that at all, so. Good little programmer. Does something that you've seen before in a way that you have not seen it done before. So that's a rare enough thing that you can say in its own right. Following day, another female forward horror picture. In this case, one called Dark Nature, which is mostly like women's retreat turns trauma fest when they happen to take the retreat on the wrong damn native grounds. But it is the movie where somebody finally asks, when they're referred to as this was a place of great power where people once came to make sacrifices to a very powerful spirit. Well, so what happened? What? To the very powerful spirit when they stopped making sacrifices to it.
Oh.
We find out. Like I say, little programmer, nifty little picture. No, not great, but pretty good. And then, of course, saw Lake Mungo and Savageland. And last night, just because it's on Max, screw it, HBO Max. It's on HBO goddamn Max.
It's going to be that forever. It's always going to be HBO Max.
In the spirit of turn off the light when you leave, Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Oh, was that any good?
I liked it. I liked it quite well. I
really
liked
the first one.
I like both of these movies. This one, there's a certain aspect of predictability to some bits, but overall, I found it fairly delightful. And it does have some pretty amazing gags, and one of the most glorious bits of product placement I have ever seen in any picture. Okay. Going back to Jane's approaching product placement as feature, not bug, from her K-dramas from last week. This is one where they definitely kind of pull it off. I would not dream of spoiling it for you. But suffice it to say, generally a good time. And it's a pity that it is highly unlikely that we are going to get any more of that franchise.
What's that guy? Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I planned on seeing that picture, but he turned me the fuck off.
Yeah, there was a thing going on there for a little bit. I don't follow Twitter, so
I think he's pretty hard right. He's just not very open about it, in that he does not support certain communities that we would definitely support. That
seems like,
that didn't help me, but I figured, well, I have a lot of gay friends, in fact, all of them, who eat at Chick-fil-A, so, maybe it's okay to make some exceptions. But then when the movie fucking flopped, Levi just went crazy. It's like his ego couldn't take it, and he couldn't shut up about it. And he was like, nobody understands it. We didn't market it. They didn't market it correctly. This and that. He had so many excuses.
I thought he was prompted to do one of those everybody should be seeing my movie in the film sort of campaigns.
Credit where credit is due. They absolutely did not market it correctly.
I didn't even know it had come out, and then people were talking about it flopping. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same thing that's going on with The Flash. It's probably you're kind of seeing it with the Blue Beetle movie that's coming out in a couple of months.
That looks great.
It's good. It's got the kid from Cobra Kai. I love that kid.
Yeah, no, like I said, but at the same time, you notice you're not seeing much of a marketing push beyond the original, like the first trailer and the second trailer. They've already had two trailers.
Flash was everywhere. They were shoving that. I felt like the Flash was being shoved in our faces.
They
I mean, at
they
the same
had a
time,
marketing budget larger than the movie's budget, apparently.
the
Where things are
current
going now.
the current DC stuff is fire sale material. It is a particular iteration of that property that is on the way out,
Well,
and
I,
you can feel it.
I
You
believe
can feel
yeah.
it in the zeitgeist.
I believe James Gunn has confirmed that Blue Beetle is the first film that's part of his universe, even though he didn't do it.
Which is funny because they've been talking because up to this point they've been talking about it as overtly an Elseworlds thing, and of course this is the hiccup that we run into in additionally, which is there is nothing on the forthcoming slate of gun-driven DC pictures that particularly piques my interest.
Really?
I mean, in what world do you?
Are you?
Well, okay, I'm interested to see what they do with the freaking Authority, because filming the Authority at all, much less as the first cycle of a revival of a product, is the worst fucking idea imaginable.
Let's start with the direct parody of our license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of person James Gunn is. He likes playing with stuff like that.
I mean, if he does the
No,
Authority as an extremely dark comedy like Peacemaker, that might work.
Yeah, he might.
Like
We don't know. We haven't seen, other than Peacemaker, the whatever the fuck they are, the Suicide Squad. We haven't seen anything from Gunn's universe.
That's fair. That said, taking the I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see what they do with Midnighter and Apollo in a filmed iteration. But doing the Authority itself as part of the first wave of the project, that's either very ambitious, very brave, or very stupid. But we'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm very excited for the Brave and the Bold.
Okay, I'll allow. I can be guardedly excited for that.
I'm sorry. What's the concept in Brave and the Bold? Because I know the comic book concept. It's all.
I'm gonna go. I'm hoping fun Batman.
Yeah, it's basically the Bat family. They're really excited to bring Robin back into the cinematic universe and stuff like that.
He's almost getting him in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, to see more of the Bat family. Batgirl was supposed to come out, and that Batgirl was supposed to be in Brave and the Bold.
I so desperately want to see what that thing was.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll ever put it out there.
I am really hoping that gets leaked at some point, because
they claim they burned it. They claim it's gone, but I think they're lying. I desperately want to see what.
It's got to be on hard drive.
That money.
Yeah.
It's got to be on hard drives. It's not like film canisters, but
I cannot imagine a director's contract existing that did not give at this point the director some authority for preservation of the material. Most directors' contracts include a fucking copy of the film.
Yeah.
Sometimes copies of multiple cuts of the film. There's a reason why director's cut is a thing, because usually it's a contractual obligation.
There are plenty of loopholes.
I mean, if they're saying the film was technically never completed, so you don't get a copy of the cut, well, I mean that's
exactly.
But at the same time it had already been pre-screened, so a cut existed.
But it was incomplete, and even the people who screened it said it was incomplete. I think that they just stopped production short of doing one last CGI shot and said, no, it's incomplete. So they didn't have to get a bunch of contract shit for all the people they'd hired.
Hollywood.
I'm just really hoping that it gets leaked at some time. I mean, I don't know. At the same time, remember to sweep up and turn the light off when you on the way out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm excited about what James Gunn's gonna do, because I have faith
in Gunn.
Everything he's ever made.
I have faith in Gunn. I just am left distinctly cold by the slate that has been announced thus far. That's all I'm saying.
I just worry. That's just what I do. I worry that at some point he's going to pull a Peter Jackson with King Kong and just.
Oh no,
hasn't
King
done it
Kong was
yet.
great. King Kong was great. The lovely bones can the lovely bones can
fuck that
kiss
movie.
my ass in hell.
I was just
Yeah,
thinking
Peter
about how much
Jackson
I hate
hadn't-
that today.
Yeah, Peter Jackson didn't do a King Kong until he did a King Kong. So
I
a
loved King Kong.
66-minute movie and made it 4 hours.
Yeah, I loved King Kong. Like I say, the lovely bones, the one he did after King Kong, that can go fuck itself. But anyway,
He needs smaller budgets.
I think it helps him.
That's been my theory all along with a lot of his movies. Technically, he had a smaller budget on Lord of the Rings. Like, was it the budget for The Hobbit was like 3 times what the whole trilogy cost, or something like that.
Well, the thing about The Hobbit was The Hobbit, the enormous freaking budget was forced on him. They, kind of gave him the proverbial offer he couldn't refuse.
But that's exactly the problem, I think. He needs boundaries that are forced on him. He can't have, when he has the world, there's too much. He does too much with it. It gets longer, and it's not tight and succinct like Dead Alive or even Bad Taste. Bad Taste gets in and gets out.
Yeah.
The Frighteners has a good story that hits all the beats and is still effective. I love that movie. Anyway,
I don't, but
that's fine.
I get hung up on the CGI in that one.
I don't think about it.
I try not to, but I can't help it.
Plus, when the scythe comes out and the blade goes, whoosh, that's pretty cool.
That whole bit always really stuck with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think he needs less money. Why don't we move on to what we're going to watch next week? Because we've been going for pretty long. So we have Alien Resurrection on the table. Shane is the only one who hasn't seen it, I believe.
I will talk as long as anyone will tolerate me about any film in the Alien franchise, including AVPR.
Yes, he will.
We know that not all 3 of us might rate it favorably, but all 3 of us have seen it and appreciate the franchise to the point where I don't think any of us would stop wanting to watch that. But the point is, we have to sell Shane on it, not each other. So what's been holding you back, Shane?
I don't know. So I like the first 2 movies. I don't really remember the third one, to be honest. I just haven't really heard great things about about any of the ones past 3, I guess. And
things get more divisive after Aliens.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that. I've owned the DVD box set through. I think it was at the time it was only through Resurrection, and then now I have the Blu-ray box set, which is through Covenant. I guess just lack of interest really has been the main thing.
What I always found interesting with the Alien series is that it's a series in which each film is a different genre.
Yep. Yes,
I've
been saying the same thing.
Yeah.
First film is a horror film. Second film is an action film. Third film is an art film. And fourth film is a foreign film.
Yeah.
So it's got a distinctly different flavor to it. Who's the director?
Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Jeunet, thank you.
Yeah.
So, are you familiar with any of Jeunet's other work?
Yeah, we did Delicatessen. Did we do City of Lost Children?
City of Lost Children. Yeah, we did both of those at the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
It has the same flavor there. I actually think Jeunet's best work is probably Micmacs, but I might be.
I haven't seen that yet. I want to so badly, but
Micmacs is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. It is.
It looks more in line with
extraordinarily
Delicatessen than it does hit like Amelie or something.
It's not even that dark.
Oh.
So it's sort of in between. It's
I
not
still need to
dark.
see that thing that he did for Netflix a year or 2 ago. It's been on my list forever. I just keep not getting around to it.
All right, we're gonna get off track.
Yeah, we just did. But it has it. I mean, it's in the sort of dark environment of Delicatessen when you're in the walls in Delicatessen with people dressed in garbage bags. It has a little bit of that kind of cobbled together feel, It has a little bit of that sort of humor in translation aspect to it.
You're talking
Which
about Alien
gives it-
Resurrection now,
And
right?
this
Yes,
was
I
written
am.
by Joss Whedon, right?
Yes.
I was about to say it also
Kind of.
plays. It also plays as the first draft of the premise for Firefly.
Yeah, I can see that
in
too.
some ways. In some ways.
Plot-wise, it has some. Really, it's the plot where I think it gets divisive. Would you say that's correct, Jenner?
Oh no, there are plenty of things about which to be divisive on that picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Did
I
I
count in the
phrase
plot
that diplomatically or what?
Yeah. I lump into plot sort of the character creations and the character concepts that I think are probably some of the central bits, but it's got some surprises for you in that respect. There's portions of it which are an alien movie. What's going to happen in an alien movie? Well, the aliens are going to get out and they're going to kill a lot of people. But there's other aspects to it that get added in and make it a little more interesting. Do you know anything?
I know nothing. I know Winona Ryder's in it. That's literally all I know. And and at one point, Sigourney Weaver throws a basketball. Ron Perlman's in it. That's it.
Dan Hedaya's in it.
Dominique Pignon from the other Genet movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah,
cool.
He's
The
really
guy with
funny in it. Yeah, the guy with the face.
Yeah.
His face.
I figure
that's the worst.
The movie has an interesting collection of familiar faces in the cast. In any case,
I born to be a clown.
I simultaneously love the movie, dislike the movie, am terrified by the movie, and completely respect the movie. They're just this movie is weird as shit. It's weird feeling. It's weird. Everything's either really kind of flowy and flamboyant, or it's really stark and, well, more contrasty, more hardcore, I guess, visually. And it goes back and forth between these weird, the tone is all over the place. Yeah. But I find it fascinating. I can't think of many movies that are like it. This isn't even like a Genet movie, I would say, in that having people speak in English and him not being non-English speaking, it makes for a really different, it happens so rarely that you get that kind of lack of communication between the director and everybody else, because he did not get
Sigourney Weaver. Except Sigourney Weaver, who acted as on-set translator for a goodly chunk of the movie.
Yeah. I just think it's really unique. I do.
Oh, it's unique.
I both love it and hate it. I can't. There are many aspects to it. I think it's probably the most interesting and discussable of almost all the Alien franchise.
It's kind of an ideal situation of a later sequel in a franchise, in that it is taking known values and it is just playing with them in a completely different context. That it's sort of it's okay, what happens if we throw this in and this and this and we make them all become like a troop going to see the wizard? You know,
it's patchwork.
Yes, thank you. It's patchwork.
Yeah.
It's sort of conceptually patchwork, and it's a bit of that, you know, playing with all of the toys in the toy box aspect of later sequels in acknowledged franchises. But as a result, it also gets forgotten a lot.
Yeah, I find it a little bit fascinating. It is, and you know how I am about the Alien movies in general. I'm an Alien fan the way that some people are Star Wars or Star Trek fans. Alien Resurrection is my least favorite Alien film, and I include the AVP sub-franchise.
Wow.
Yep.
Fascinating.
We've talked about it a lot. We've had many conversations.
We've talked about it a lot. It's you're right. It has been a long time since I've seen it, and I could probably stand to give it another look. Because it is slick bug nuts. It's just, I don't think it's slick bug nuts in the way that it thinks it is.
What is slick bug nuts?
like phosphorescently insane.
I don't think
Is-
it does. We'll discuss it if we do
Yeah.
it. What,
I mean,
Like I
has-
say, I'm kind of on board with this project. I like to talk about these movies, so
Yeah.
I would like to talk about these movies. But
has Jane seen it? Do you know? 'Cause she's gonna be back next week.
dollars to donuts as to whether she actually remembers it. So I think she'd be on board in any case. Yeah.
Well, so I have a certain thing in mind when I picture an alien movie, and nothing you guys have told me matches what is in my head when I picture an alien movie. So it's
Imagine me seeing that fucking movie in the theater on opening day,
Yeah.
and going back later in the day to make sure that I wasn't mistaken.
I saw it twice on opening day too.
so yeah. I mean, I'm definitely curious because this doesn't sound like any alien movie I've ever heard of. But
I would call it the most unique in the franchise easily.
That I will actually agree with that phrasing. Again,
The phrasing was very intentional.
yes.
On many levels, and with an unacknowledged connection there, it is Alien as seen through Heavy Metal, the magazine. Because it had, for one thing, because Heavy Metal is originally French, Metal Hurlant, and also because Dominique Monaghan was in the Heavy Metal series that came out on Sci-Fi, but it's got a lot of that crazed aspect to it of just, as Jenner put it, phosphorescently insane.
Yeah.
But
I have heard that posited as a defense of the picture on multiple occasions, and I am going to try to keep that filter fixed in
Shane
my brain for this next viewing.
Yeah, but Shane
Assuming
still
that-
hasn't
assuming
agreed
that
to
Shane-
it.
Assuming that Shane is on board with this project.
no, I'm on board. I'm fascinated by what this could possibly be. Like, I don't have any. I know what you guys have told me. I don't have a clear picture in my mind of what this movie is, and I'm curious.
That will not. Watching the movie will probably not dissipate that feeling.
yeah, it's not boring.
It's not
I'll say
boring.
that. If we were still
clunky.
doing,
It's very clunky.
if we were still doing movie pairings, I would have a suggestion to go with it, but I'm not
What?
going to put people through it. There's a movie called Alien 3000. I'm betting none of you have heard of it.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay,
I'm gonna look it up.
I remember the case from Walmart.
Yeah, Alien.
I'd sooner watch
3000,
Dracula 3000 again.
probably wise. Alien 3000 is, for at least the first 20 minutes of the film, appears to be about the ghost of an alien that is guarding Conquistador Gold. So it is all of the Scooby-Doo plots shoved into one. It is a bad movie.
I'm guessing there is no way it can actually live up to that high concept that you just dropped on us.
It gets a little close. It turns out it's not an alien ghost. It's just an alien guarding Conquistador treasure.
If you want to get the right
So
feeling,
it's a stealth sequel to Star Knight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Nate.
all right. I guess we are doing Alien Resurrection then. I'm cool with that. If Shane's cool with that.
I'm fine with that. Sure.
All right, but next time it has to be something that Shane has already seen, because I think we've battered him with new ones.
Well, we
in
can
a
table
row.
that for next week, and think of something else if we want to.
At this point, we've been at this for 2 hours. It's the only one that's come up, and it feels compelling. I think at this point we're probably going to call it for time.
Yeah.
No, we're going another half hour. Didn't I tell you?
Oh, okay.
That's why we started.
I have
late.
5 more segments for us to do.
And I haven't had a smoke break, so
Yeah, I can tell. All right, so next week will be Alien Resurrection. That's
and other
unexpected.
myriad associated subjects.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us tonight here on What's on the Pile. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook at What's on the Pile, or you can visit our website, whatsonthepile.com. You can also find these things down in the description. Thanks for hanging out.